Hello and welcome to another DrivingMaul special for you, looking back at 2020 and having a chat with one of the Mitre 10 Cup province general managers. And it was my great pleasure to have a chat yet again with Karen Bell from Northland. How are you doing, sir?
Good, Paul. Kia ora, and thanks for having us on again. Lots changed since we last spoke.
Yes, it has. That's very true. It's been a lot. Yeah, we've been through lockdown and come out the other side, had all sorts of games and discussions. Now, your first year in as a general manager of Northland. Just how much has I guess, trying to sort of take COVID out of it, how much has the job actually been similar to what you interviewed for? Did you walk in and was it what you expected, or has it been a few surprises along the way?
Look, a lot of the core elements were as advertised. You know, the community element was there, but I think there was an added level of complexity. First through optimisation, which was the New Zealand Rugby's almost like a financial review of the whole structure, but then COVID just came out and tipped everything upside down, which I think gave as much as COVID has been a real challenge for us all. Sitting in amongst it have been some real opportunities. So, a chance for us to look at ourselves, connect with community, and Poe Island's a major development for us here in terms of a new home for Northland Rugby from 2021 and beyond. And we were able to secure a significant amount of funding, which may not have been available had COVID not been here. So, look, never let a good crisis go to waste. We really took advantage of it from a Northland perspective.
Yep, and I say, not only do you have the sort of all the normal things, or not normal things, but as in running your community game, running the Farah Palmer Cup, running the Mitre 10 Cup, but you also having to prepare for a Women's Rugby World Cup next year in your province, as you say, a new home as well. So there's been a lot of moving parts and an exciting time in Northland Rugby, despite as you say, the negatives going on at the same time. So I guess has that been sort of the biggest sort of COVID change that you're going forward? Is just the fact that it's allowed you to accelerate some of your plans?
Some of the plans have been accelerated, yeah, but look, it gave us when you come new into an organisation, you always want to look at how things are currently operating and where we can deliver efficiencies. One of the challenges that the board gave us when we first came in here was connection with community. And the advent of Zoom and people's acceptance of Zoom as a way of communicating allowed us to connect with our clubs. And we've got 52, I think, currently clubs at the moment. And during the peak of COVID, while we were locked down, we had a regular fortnightly catch up with our clubs, which allowed us to give them an update as to where we were at. The landscape was changing at such a rapid pace that we need to keep them informed, and Zoom was a great way of doing it. And I don't think we'd ever communicated with our constituents as well as we had, in such a turbulent time. And they turned out in their droves. We've got some really challenging places to get connectivity to. But they turned up and they provided feedback. And when we went live with club rugby, there was a familiarity. They were aware of who I was, and connections happened quicker. So, yeah, it did fast track a lot of things. There are positives in there. I wouldn't want to revisit it again in 2021, which highlights the need for us to make sure that we just protect each other in terms of the spread of this virus. But there's been some real bonuses for us.
Cool. Now, talking to Steve Mitchell yesterday from Southland, he was saying that all of their clubs, I think 33 clubs, have survived the COVID. There was a kind of concern that we would be losing some of those grassroots clubs. How have the sort of 50 odd clubs done up in Northland? Have they all survived? Are they all still there?
The general feedback is that they've all come through strong. But we've got some small clubs that are often hapu based, and if you look at somewhere like Ortidia, they were flooded out just as we were opening up. So some of them have been through some real hardship. So it'd be irresponsible for me to say, look, they've all come through unscathed. But what has come through, and I think Steve touched on this yesterday, was just the heart of our community is strong. The passion in our community for our game is just enormous. And that's been really reassuring. When we go back to the early days of COVID, 5 or 6 months ago, the landscape looked so dire, and the fact that we were able to run club competitions to get all championship winners identified at all levels right across Northland was just a huge positive for our community, the people, the volunteers that made that happen in conjunction with my team. So look, if we ever wanted to check the state of our game, I think COVID just reaffirmed how essential community rugby is to provinces like Northland.
Now, one of the things you did do was live stream, at least the final. We had Steve from New Zealand Sports Radio doing some commentary for you. Is there plans to continue doing that again, to take not just, as you say, some of your communication and meetings to Zoom, but also take some of your club rugby to online as well?
Absolutely. And look, some of the feedback, I was just involved with the Mitre 10 player feedback sessions, and their challenge to me was just around that, is actually do more of those. And as much as our social media, I think, has been a step up in what it has been in the past, there's an opportunity for us to bring the game even closer to our community by utilising that. So technology is a solution, and it's a very effective way for us to share and spread messaging. We actually ran our AGM over Zoom. So the interesting outcome of that was that we had a higher attendance than that when it was done the previous year in person. The only issue we had was Don Nicholson was recognised as a life member, and we had to make sure that we presented and acknowledged his life achievement in person, which Zoom doesn't allow you to do, which we did at one of our games. So, there's a lot of wins out there, but certainly getting our games out to the community, sharing. There's a lot of passion, like with the women's final between Kaikoui and Te Arawa in Te Arawa, getting that spread right down to Wellsford. There's probably about 4.5 hours travel distance. So great way for us to share our game. Big opportunities.
And also I saw that you streamed your awards night as well on your Facebook page. So it's good to be again. It adds transparency as well by having it available for everyone to see, which is great to see. So how do you rate your first year in office? Then, as you say, the community game was your key focus. When you have your end of year review with the board, what kind of grade do you think you get, and how do you think you've done?
It's probably not fair for me to put a mark around that. Being new in here, look, we achieved a lot. There's no two way about that. But I just see the opportunity to do so much more and improve. I think the highlights from my perspective, probably in order of priority, would be connection with community. I truly believe that if we can get that connection and engagement with the community authentic and genuine, the high performance end will look after itself. We've really got to get across there. During the course of the season, certainly with Farah Palmer Cup, and then when we moved into Mitre 10, one of the things I really appreciated was just how passionate and supportive our fan base are. The numbers that we had travelling away to games, whether it was the first FPC game down in Waikato, to the very last game against Hawke's Bay in the Mitre 10, we had fans that are just passionate. I also reinforce that, like, the Northland Rugby Union team is just fantastic. They're all passionate about our game. They're all committed. They burn the candle at both ends, and I think the results were coming through. The growth of our women's game is enormous. I think all of New Zealand would probably agree that our Cody were very unlucky not to be in the final. You know, they played with a passion and style that was that just took them to everyone's hearts. Our Taniwha, best season in 23 years, and I think George Connier did an amazing job there. It's not going to be 23 years before we wait for another final. And as I said before, look, we've got Poe Island. You know, it's going to be a $6.5 million development that will give Northland Rugby one of the best facilities in New Zealand. Seminoff Stadium's got development work where new lights are going in and a big screen in preparation for Rugby World Cup. Obviously, Rugby World Cup 2021 is a big highlight for us, and then last but not least is just the being fiscally responsible, having to make some hard decisions around the shape of our organisation to ensure that we were viable. And look, you would have seen some of the irresponsible media reports that came out during the year that said Northland would not make it to the start line. You know, that sort of thing really undermined a lot of the good work that so many people in Northland put in, and could not be further from the truth. So, you know, we've come through strong position and a lot of positives. I'll leave it to the board to give me an assessment, Mark. But you know, I had a smile on my face a couple of weeks ago, and in the knowledge that my team is already working towards making sure that 2021 and beyond is sustainable success for Northland Rugby. So that's exciting, yeah.
Good. Okay, so on the whole, yeah, better than expected, or positive compared to your goals, which is great to see. I deliberately hadn't touched on the high performance side because I know that your when our chat earlier in the year was that the community was your focus. But looking at that whole high performance side, you came from just 2 wins in 2019 for the Farah Palmer Cup team, and that was in the championship, to be up against mainly Premiership teams in the North Division, and as you say, come second equal, and arguably deserving of making that semi-finals. Just one of the big provinces in there. So a massive turnaround there. Also on the men's side, as you say, just 2 wins in 2019 to get 5 wins to make it into semi-finals, and then through to the final in the championship in 2020. So yeah, both high performance teams doing extremely well compared to the previous season. What do you put that down to? What's been the big change, you think, this year, or is it just the fruition of building blocks that have been put in place previously?
Yeah, look, a lot of it goes down to stuff that was already in play. It would be egotistical of me to stick my hand out and say, look, it's all me. My role is about supporting the activities of those 2 teams and taking away the noise and making sure that they have everything they need to succeed. So in terms of FPC, both teams, both FPC and Mitre 10, both teams are underpinned by coaching, management, and players that are high on integrity, character, trust, which builds culture. So, look, I'm passionate about culture, so my team is based around that. But both George and Cheryl had structures that were very strong on culture, and I think that's what took a lot of our results through, as well as very good coaching, right? So we've got, if you had seen any of our games, both Cody and, well, you probably wouldn't have seen the Mitre 10 aftermatch, but both delivered heartwarming waiata in respect of their hosts or whoever we were playing at home. Huckers were delivered at appropriate times that really underline just the passion in both teams. So look, you know, we're blessed with players who love playing for their province, and fan acknowledgement. You might not have seen it. So after we played Hawke's Bay in the final, and I'd just like to acknowledge, like, Hawke's Bay were a fantastic team and good hosts, but our boys went over to the far side of the field and acknowledged the Northland fans that were there, and then they came over to the grandstand side. So both the Cody and the Taniwha really valued their fans. And one of the things that, probably one of the best messages, Paul, if I was doing a plug for Northland, there's been several interviews on Portia Woodman, who is deservedly, a rock star of the game. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. My three favourite players of all time, ball in hand, would be Michael Jones when he was playing on the open side, Christian Cullen, and Portia Woodman, hands down. So Portia's done some lovely interviews where she talks about coming home to play in front of her whānau and her community, giving back. And that's probably the biggest message, this momentum. There is a change in Northland Rugby that's coming through high performance, through community, through Poe Island, through Seminoff Stadium. Our connection with iwi, we're building in that space. But our biggest message would be to any Northland players. And when you look around the Wharapama Cup Championship, it's sprinkled with Northland players in other provinces. And likewise, we've got a lot of our male talent that's being picked up when they go to school elsewhere and others. The messages: come home, play in front of your community, your iwi, your whānau, because there's something really positive stirring in Northland. And the next 3 to 5 years ahead, we're really focused on growing that story and building on what both George Connier and Cheryl Smith have started with their two teams. So it's very exciting. And also, we took one of the things I think we might have mentioned to you in that early interview was when the Heartland competition closed down, I got on the phone to Ngāti Porou East Coast CEO, Kushla, and we talked about getting the Taniwha to go down to the Awa, and it happened. So we had the Northland development team go down to play Ngāti Porou East Coast down at Rangatukia, which is George Nepier's home. And it was just such a fantastic rugby experience. So, we're really focused on building the memories, building our community, and paying back to the fans and community that is so supportive of us. So come home and play for Northland would be the big message.
Yeah, and you really do see that the family sort of side of it with those teams. I mean, I'll put a couple of links in the comments below of things we've seen. So, for example, after the county's Manukau Northland Wharapama Cup game, I've gone blank as to the player's name, but that was given a jersey because she reached the milestone of her of games, and the presentation and the whole team gave and got around her for that was wonderful. We also have a couple of players that have, I think, was it 100 games? It was for one of your.
We've had Ross Wright's 100th game, and the haka that they delivered to him is a sign of respect, and the 50 players. It's it comes from the heart, and it's about acknowledging what players like Camilla Wihongi and Ross Wright have given to their province. Like, it's a passion that is very strong here, and it's one that it's that element of tribalism that underpins our competitions at the provincial level. As much as Steve Mitchell, I will say, look, he's a good guy, and we want Southland to be as strong as they can, and we'll do whatever we can to collaborate. There's some really good collaboration going on between provincial union CEOs, but at the end of the day, the strength in our competition lies in the fact that we will want to beat the living daylights out of each other on the field and secure wins. That's the success of our game, and we've just got to keep growing that, and we can.
So links to all of those, because we were lucky, between myself and Steve, we were lucky to be there for quite a few of those things. So links to those hackers and celebrations in the show notes below. Looking forward then into in 2021, we already talked about a few of the things, but New Zealand Rugby have came out yesterday and mentioned a few things. One of them being that funding is likely to be cut by around about 10% for each of the provinces. What does that mean for you guys going forwards in 2021?
Yeah, look, it's another level of complexity in terms of it ensures that we remain fiscally responsible. It's undesirable. It means I still need to maintain a level of cut, and probably even going to another level to look at operationals. We might need to go and, if it's 10% cut in revenue, then maybe I need to go and apply that sort of principle to our expenditure. I think from an operational perspective, we're operating at bare bones. The key thing that will really impact on all provincial unions this year is the removal of the MSD COVID-19 wage subsidy. That was a lifesaver for us. So the changes we made in 2020 will flow through into 2021. Some of the growth aspirations that we might have had, we've got to go and relook at some of our commercial models. So, we've been blessed with a great sponsorship team, in particular Semco. So just really, really proud supporters of us. And we're in a position where we can announce that Semco Group have recommitted to Northland Rugby. They did it proactively for another 2 years, with another right of 2 years thereafter. So, we've got to look at our commercial model, all the elements, to see where we can improve. We've got some of our people. We've got a guy called Chris Fife, who's probably one of the most passionate sub-union people in the world, and he's instigating our cattle scheme. So, things that have worked in the past. Sometimes the answers to the future lie in what we've done in the past, but doing it better. So that connection with community growing. But yeah, look, if New Zealand Rugby didn't have to take that 10% off us, it'd make life so much easier, because we could grow our game at the community level. It's not like we would be tipping that money back into high performance, because we've already cut our cloth around that space.
And then I guess the other announcement was that the Farrell Palmer Cup will return to a championship premiership format. Now, with Northland being in the championship last year, do you know whether you'll be premiership or championship next year after your good result this year?
No, I don't. There was no promotion relegation in those elements. I think we'll be in the same in the championship grade next year. But I think if you went and asked any of the Cody, they'd be gutted that they don't get a crack at the big guns, because they really fired some big shots this year,
Yep.
and they'll be looking for them next year. All the talk is just how much the game, the quality of the game, the passion of the game lifted in Northland. Obviously, having Tyler and Portia come home added to it. But what that would have done is inspire the next generation of the Tylers and Portias and the TKs and the Crystals and Araha Savage, who had just had an amazing season. So, yeah, look, doesn't matter who you put in front of the Cody, they're going to go full noise. So, yeah, bring it. The sooner it happens. I can't wait for the FPC to start again. It's just such an exciting competition.
It is, and I do feel sorry for the teams that are in the championship with them, because I think it's, you say they proved themselves to be a premiership level, so it's going to be tough for some of those teams down there. So, and then I guess in the Mitre 10 Cup also, we've not had an announcement. They've said that they don't know what format it's going to be, and they'd have to get some. There are different opinions, and have to get all the stakeholders on board. Are you able to say what the favoured format would be for Northland, or is that wait and see?
Our feedback was that the current format suits us fine, but I can understand it's a format that doesn't allow you to define. An interesting game would have been Tasman playing Hawke's Bay. I think everyone in New Zealand Rugby would have looked at those two teams and said, who would have come out on top. So Tasman rightfully have the mantle of top team in New Zealand, but I'm sure if I was Jay and his team down in Hawke's Bay, you'd be saying I'd want to have a crack at it. So the north-south split would appear to offer that as something over and above. But, the aspirational qualities of being able to, be promoted from the championship into premiership is something that appeals to us. We haven't been in a final for 23 years. Now we've got a sniff of that. we're doing everything we can around building and growing on that, because it's not going to be 23 years before we do that. There's too much momentum.
Yeah, and looking at how Bay of Plenty, the promoted side, went this year, made it into the playoffs. Waikato promoted the year before, also made it into the playoffs of the Premiership. Shows you that the difference between the top of the Championship and the Premiership is minuscule. There is
and how unlucky were Harbour when they went down. I mean, they had, I think it's 5 wins and they got relegated. So, it's a great competition. We'll go with it either way. We're committed to being in there with a 14-team competition and but performing more consistently and sustainably at the highest level.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time, Cameron. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you again, and looking forward to getting up and seeing both the Corey and the Taniwha next year in the Farah Palmer Cup and Mitre 10 Cup, which we'll be covering obviously on here. Reminder, links down below to those videos of those post-match celebrations from those games. And thank you very much for your time.
Kia ora, Paul. Thank you very much.